and welcome. You're watching NewsX. My name is Gauri Kundalia and you are watching our rolling budget coverage. Unleashing India is what we are calling it. We're covering a range of issues from cryptos to NFTs, augmented reality, virtual reality and much, much more. Let's talk about something which has fascinated a lot of us for the past few months. Now, the global augmented reality and virtual reality market has been booming in the past few years. Immersive and interactive technology is playing a huge part in the development of various sectors globally. Now, as the digitization of markets continue, startups in the AR and VR space have increased as well. The hardware segment of the market, which includes smart glasses and headsets, how we can integrate AR and VR into all sectors and boost the industry, making India the hub of AR and VR. We have with us a panel of guests. We have joining us now on the broadcast, Raman Talwar, CEO and founder, Director of Simulanis, also with us, Keshav Shekhawat, co-founder of Ogin, Bhairav Shankar, CEO, Avantri joins us also on the broadcast, Kanav Singla, founder and CEO of Metadome is also on the broadcast with us, and last but not the least, Professor Aman Agarwal, Director of Indian Institute of Finance joins us. Gentlemen, I will come to you, but before that, let's have a look at some of the numbers as far as this particular sector is concerned. Now, this particular graphic is showing us the market value in India of the AR and VR industry. Now, in 2017, it accounted for 0.34 billion US dollars. This is 2017 viewers. In 2020, which is just around 1.5 to 2 years ago, it was 1.83 billion US dollars in 2020, and it is projected to grow in 2027 at 14.07 billion USD. So that is the sort of projection we're looking at as far as the AR and VR industry is concerned. These are the market values, of course. Moving on, growth forecast. India, we can see that it's 38.29% until 2027. This is another projection. That is the rate at which this particular sector is expected to grow. In terms of USD, it is at 571.42 billion USD, and this is by 2025. This is the global projection. Another global projection for us, the rise is expected at CAGR 63.3%. This is another global projection as far as the AR and VR sectors are concerned. In India, the startups are booming. We will be talking to several of these startup founders with us. There are around 170 startups that, as per a report, currently exist working on this particular technology. Market report card. Let's have a look at what are various kinds of devices and various formats of these devices. Head-mounted display, which are your the goggles or the spectacles that you put on. The market share is at 35.94%. This is the first one. Remember, this is the most popular form of AR and VR currently that we are familiar with. But moving on, MSME's market share is around 62.92%. Remember, viewers, it is not just these gaming sites anymore. Now it's also other sectors. AR and VR is percolating into workplaces, into academics, in schools, colleges, etc. Consumer electronics as well is what we are seeing the boom in. 22.50% is what the market share currently looks like as far as the AR and VR technology is concerned. So we saw three sort of subsectors. We saw wearables or head-mounted display. Then we saw MSMEs, consumer electronics, and last but not the least, the hardware segment. The market share currently is at 34.38%. These are broad categorizations, but it's not just this. It's much more than this. And to understand that, we have with us a panel of guests. If I could just begin with Raman first. Raman, lots of buzzwords are around us. We talk about the metaverse, then we are told it's not just the metaverse, it's not just one of the metaverses, there are several of these metaverses. There's AR, there's VR, there's lots of this. So before we come to the numbers back again, why don't you help us decode a little bit what these various things mean?
Absolutely. So thank you. So in terms of course, like you said, there are a lot of technology medium and platforms out there. The terms themselves have evolved over the years as well. So starting out with AR, which is augmented reality, in which you simply have to use a mobile device and you kind of, flash it across on a QR code or an image or any surface, and the digital output, which is a 3D model or any other digital form of content, can come to life. So that's the easiest form of extended reality technology, which is AR. Of course, we have Kanav on the call who will probably shed more light on it. He's pretty much the expert in that. Where we predominantly work in is the VR segment, which is virtual reality. So virtual reality is a world in which you simulate anything which you want to, pretty much. So it could be an industrial plant, it could be an education environment, it could be anything which is a 3D rendition of a world around you. It mimics the real world and simulates the scenario and situations. The obvious advantage is that you can build interactivity into these systems. You can actually touch and feel things as if you were doing them in reality. So this is where virtual reality comes in. You do wear headsets to view virtual reality. So some of the typical ones are HTC Vive, Oculus Quest, and all such devices. Many more such devices are entering the market. And lastly, of course, the mixed reality, which is where you wear a digital headset or a smart glass or a wearable, and you kind of interact with the digital objects or the virtual objects through it. So it pretty much is your glass experience, essentially.
All right, Raman, so essentially, if we could sort of put it in simple words, it's just an interface between man and machine, and it is the most seamless interface we've seen as far as technology is concerned till now, correct?
Indeed it is. Correct. It's fairly immersive, and yeah, absolutely.
All right, so if Keshav could now come in. Keshav, we're told now that it's not just, these fancy industries, it's not just gaming anymore, it's not just tech, it's not just hardware, but this technology is also sort of percolating into things like workplaces, governance, academics, in schools, in terms of teaching children is concerned. Could you talk to us a bit about the potential of this industry in those domains?
Yeah, thank you first of all for inviting me. And regarding those industries, the AR and VR use cases have definitely come far from the gaming industry and the entertainment industry, right? The very first use case which we can talk about is the retail sector. Today, many people shop online for the products, the clothes, the fashion accessories, the home items, the electric appliances, right? And the COVID-19 pandemic has boosted this. So when we shop online, we just see the images and videos. But using these technologies, we can actually wear those things or place them in our house to have the feel of what it would look like in the real life, right? Just like we go in a showroom and then we try those. So that is one use case. Second is in the manufacturing industry, the industrial application, the training of employees and further things. The current training using these technologies, the cost can be reduced to a large extent. Mr. Raman is working in that field. He might be able to explain it much better. And then we also have few other use cases like virtual showrooms, kind of in which Mr. Kanav is working. Right? So these are a variety of use cases, and they are evolving with time.
Right, and what is it that Organ does? So what do you specialize in?
So we provide in the first use case, which I was talking about, we provide the virtual try-ons. Right. So when you go on an e-commerce site and shop for your products, right? So instead of just seeing the images, videos, and seeing those products on a model, which anyway look good on them, right? So you can try them on yourself digitally. For example, if you want to shop jewelry, makeup, clothes, shoes, etc., you can digitally try them on yourself before purchasing. This helps reduce the company's the product return rates and give a immersive experience to the consumers before purchasing the products.
Okay, all right, interesting. Bhairav is also with us on the broadcast. Bhairav, as far as the technology is concerned in India, where are we in terms of developing or the startup ecosystem? Where is India right now as far as AR, VR is concerned?
I think India is currently working extremely well in as a service industry. It's actually helping a lot of businesses scale into the augmented reality and virtual reality atmospheres. I think on the sense of who's using it, I think we have worked with political clients, so the politicians are using it. Now you have all the way up down till shopkeepers and side kirana shops, even they're using a Paytm, for example, a QR code scan That is augmented reality to a large extent itself. So there is extreme amount of usability inside India, which you would not be able to find in most developed countries right now, of how every day augmented reality is touching your life with simply scanning the QR code. In terms of hardware technologies that is actually growing in India, it is actually a little behind in that sense, because a lot of companies like in the US and in Europe are kind of focusing a lot on creating these wearable glasses, etc. But what India has in its kitty, which it should kind of take advantage of, is augmented reality can not only be in the digital domain where you see it in the form of glasses, it can also be in the form of holograms. And India is a pioneer in hologram technology. Holographically, you can show digital media so that you don't have to wear any kind of glasses. You don't have to interact with any kind of mobile device. You can see the digital ecosystem right in front of your very eyes itself. The Subhash Chandra Bose statue, for that example, is a perfect example of augmented reality in the real world, right? You're seeing a digital image in the real world. So that capacity is there in India. We should take advantage of it. I know that a few like companies like mine and Avantari, we are working on that space. And I think that's where the future is to be a little bit bolder. It's to be a little break away from the mold, as they say. And because we cannot compete with bigger countries in terms of money power and spending in such a, I mean, most industry experts will call this a frivolous, expenditure in terms of R&D. But we can use a little bit of innovation in this regard and find out what are the best means we can push this buck forward, the envelope forward, for that matter.
Right. So, Bhairav, what is it that you guys do? What do you specialize in?
So we specialize in augmented reality particularly, and what we've been working on for the past few years is to actually start to work on deepfake technology as a means for communication, especially in the terms of chatbots and so on. So you could have a human being actually conversing with you. The end result of this is that if you imagine that the metaverse is real in whichever platform there is, the metaverse can actually exist with human beings actually interacting with one another with their own faces, with their own voices. Right? And you could also have them in terms of holograms inside. In any case, for example, I would be speaking to you as a hologram sometime in the future, where you could be asking me any question that you would have, and I would communicate it back to you as a realistic hologram itself. So these are the areas that we have kind of focused on, because our pedigree is that we've been able to bring the 2012 hologram from Mr. Modi to life, right? So that's when we started the entire augmented reality thing in there. And since then, we've been kind of focusing on how do we make that from just a hologram where it's a one-way communication, how can we enable a two-way communication with a hologram? So that's the area in which we're working.
All right, fascinating. Kanav is also with us on the broadcast. He's the founder and CEO of MetaRoam. Kanav, what is the potential for growth in this particular industry, this sector, as of now? What are the future, where do you see the future of this technology in, let's say, 1 year and then 5 years?
Sure. So, first of all, we are all aware that a very recent event that happened that shook up the entire industry of, one of the social media and technology giants globally.
Right.
They joined the bandwagon. They were already building something, but, now from the standpoint of making it mainstream, the timing has, made everything possible. So, if I talk about especially focusing on the Indian economy, so Meta has, clear plans of, opening up creator and developer centers in India. So we can all see the developer community and the creator community in India just because of, the way technology is today for Indian consumers. That is going to be the stream of growth for us. So India is going to be the biggest hub of supply when it comes to, AR content, 3D content, virtual reality content, or from the standpoint of just, all of this coming together and being hosted on a metaverse. And we will be, generating demands from, throughout overall from the globe. So, we are going to be the center of innovation, the center of creation, and create for the entire world. So if I talk about just the growth potential that, these, use cases that we all spoke about, from training, from retail, from customer experience, from employee experience, from, two people talking to each other, like, Bhairav mentioned, through a hologram or, through their 3D avatars, all of this is going to get built in India. And, that is where, we are very proud to be, spearheading it today at Metadome, that, we are going to make sure that these tools exist for Indian developers, these tools exist for Indian creators, and they create for the world. And for us, it's about focusing on that creator community and that segment of, the population where, they can actually take it to the entire world and not be limited by the tools that, a company which is in the West or which is in Europe is building, rather than it be built in India and then scaled to the entire world.
Absolutely. And if our viewers would know this, that this is what our focus has been at NewsX as well. As far as any technology is concerned, what we really need is our entrepreneurs building it from the scratch and then taking it to the world, making India the AR, VR hub of India, and not the other way around. The Facebooks and the Googles of the world shouldn't come to us and tell us to use their products, and then essentially we become dependent on them. All right, that was fascinating. For founders of these AR, VR startups telling us about it. Stay on with us, gentlemen. We also have with us an economist. We have Professor Aman Agarwal with us. Professor Agarwal, you heard the startup founders. Let's sort of help us bind this conversation together. How important then is it to ensure that AR, VR is included in, as far as when we make our budget projections are concerned, when we make our plans are concerned, take the sector with us and make it one of the drivers of India's economic growth?
I think it is very rightly what you have pointed out is critical. Given the way AR and VR has become a reality today, it's not something which is an option. It is something which is seeping into almost all frameworks of functionality, whether it is government, whether it is private sector, whether it is social sectors like the education or NGOs, or even when it comes to social connects between people at large, from the commonest common man to the richest of the rich. What we have seen as a CAGR, which has been projected, is about 40.7%. 2020, the industry was about, in India, about $14.84 billion. Although the world market, some of the projections which have come out is roughly about $500 billion. But we have made some numbers as well. We crunch some numbers, and according to our projections of the Indian Institute of Finance, I would say it will be crossing $1 trillion industry within a span of next 5 years. And the reason for this is the kind of integration it has and the kind of productivity enhancement it brings on floor when introduced in an organization. The cost cutting is not so much in the first few periods, because you have to invest extensively, not only in terms of technology, but in terms of security and other frameworks. And as a result, so the cost, if taken over a longer period, is certainly reduced. But in the short run, the cost is not something which comes down tremendously for any investor who is moving into this technology. But this is something which is inevitable. And I think the fact that we just saw the economic survey get released and a 9.2% growth projection which has come for last year is clearly an indication that India is doing fairly well, even for the foreign direct investment. About $7 billion roughly coming per month, projections based till almost November only, clearly show the fact that India is not only a destination for investment, it's not only a destination for technology, but is also a huge market. And that's one very key component which India has. Although the US firms or European firms may have an edge in terms of currently doing an R&D in this particular framework, but when it comes to a huge chunk of market, we being the second largest population of the world, and a population which is flushed with fair amount of cash liquidity and huge savings at the back of the end, clearly facilitates that. We have a population of the middle class tuning to about $750 billion, which is equal to 2 times of United States of America, almost 1.5 times of the whole Europe. So, you're looking at a population base which has that consumption capacity and has the power to consume. It is not only that you have a population base like China has a huge population base, but the division of economic benefits or the income benefits is not there throughout the growth. And as a result, despite the fact that they are the largest population base, but they do not have that consumption aptitude or the facility, even the money power to buy it. I think India has shown that aptitude, and the economic survey which just got released clearly is an indication that we are looking at. And we can see, although it's not augmented, what we are seeing Nirmala Sitharaman ji presenting their budget, but there is a change from a clear-cut pre-printed budgets which used to be there
Correct.
and which is recirculated to a completely digital form of a budget which gets presented for last year and even this year, which is going to be there. So there is that move in the government as well in terms of policy making and decisions and in terms of inducing accountability and transparency in the whole framework.
Right. Professor Agarwal, if you were to identify key challenges that we could face in this particular sector, what would they be?
No, the key challenge, I think, first of all, the usage in all three sectors, with 3A sectors, which you look at is agriculture, services, and industry. All the three sectors would certainly see the usage of this particular technology. But the challenge is the cost factor as of now. As I said, the largest R&D which is being done and the projections which are being done is typically, we do have startups in this zone, but then mostly done by European and American firms. And as a result, the cost is fairly high for some of these technology. Even the ones which are making in India as of today are finding it a little difficult in terms of bringing down the cost. Unless we look at this project as a long-term project and we are able to reduce the cost per unit charge, which we are wanting to use in terms of any framework which we use, we will not see it become very popular. But, with the way startups are growing, with the way technology, this year itself, the projection is 14,000 startups have come up in different zones. Now, clearly shows that we are becoming the startup hub as well.
Right.
So if we are able to induce that, and they would need technology because that's something which they harper on. If they're able to do that, we should be able to reduce the cost down. And at the end, it's a question of usage. Like we can see today, when it comes to payment gateways, the commonest of the common man sitting on the street uses that payment gateway in terms of transaction. So, there is that adaptability. People are adapting to newer technologies for their benefit, whether it is students or the VAPL families or the common man. And that's where I think the liquidity crunches. If you remember, when large companies like ITC and all were selling shampoos, they talked about sachets, 1 rupee shampoo sachet which could be sold. It's a question of that unit frame pricing which is critical. So if we are able to reduce that, if the startups which are setting up do not want to encash that growth within the first 2 years, but they look at it for the next 4-5 years framework, we would see this technology growing at a much faster pace within the country as well.
All right. Quickly, we are running short of time. The four founders sitting with us, your expectations from the budget tomorrow, 30 seconds each. We begin with Raman.
Sure, thank you. So I think firstly, for our sake, since we're into our operations and we've been dealing with a lot of B2B players across industries and selling our solutions across XR for skilling and training predominantly, we would love an incentivization to be done at a large scale so that implementation and as well as the consumption for enterprise, especially in the skilling and education use cases, improves. We would also appreciate that if this sector itself could get like a specific HSN SAC code, which could also help streamline the operations a lot. And also, of course, the TDS slab which is there should be a demarcation, because we believe that if it's 0.1% for goods and 10% for goods and services, then products and services, then it could change for the XR as well for the better, so that the consumption is made better. So these would be some of my
incentives, separate recognition of the sector, and TDS slab,
Absolutely.
separate TDS slab. Okay, Keshav, 30 seconds quickly.
Yes, I think that government may proceed with the defense sector and the education sector for this space, because if we start with the education sector, this will promote the growth. Since if you say that what Web 2.0 did to America, China, and European market, they built the great tech giants which we see currently. So Web 3.0 can be the ruling factor, for the next tech giants for India, and I think government should focus on that part.
Okay, perfect. Bhairav, your expectations?
I think that I would want the Technology Development Board in India to kind of accept AR and VR and AI, artificial intelligence itself, as a critical parameter to invest in. I would also want the R&D benefits that the government used to give out for DSIR certified labs to include AI, and also start to incentivize R&D inside India, especially for startups. In terms of monetary benefits, like there used to be a 400% income tax waiver that was there and which the Modi government has kind of removed. We would want that to be put back in, because that will incentivize a lot of companies to come up with new R&D facilities and new R&D pushes, especially in the startup ecosystem.
All right.
These are the two things. And as Raman said, I would also want recognition of AR and VR as a critical driver of growth inside India. These are the three things. Yeah,
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Kanav, lastly, your expectations?
I think it's become clear to us that for AR and VR to succeed, our younger generation, or the generation which is building technology today, they need to be given access to AR and VR technology at a grassroots level, at maybe an education level. So I think just from bringing this as a different center of excellences, or setting up these center of excellences at our institution, at an institution level, or at a school level, where this becomes part of curriculum, and setting up this as setting aside some capital for this in education will really help the creator economy in India to boom just from the standpoint of creating content for AR and VR. The earlier we start, the better.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on this program. I hope it was both educative and we were able to set some clear goals as far as this particular sector is concerned.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.